Previously in the Dolo Gim series, here on the Max GM account, we finished out Fasani's Nightmare. Well, not finished out, we're missing the Eldritch Orb, so we're one collection log item away from greenlogging it, but at this stage of the account, we kind of just have to pace ourselves for anything. Who knows when we're going to get that Eldritch Orb. Plus, again, at this stage of the account, a lot of the grinds, the items we're going after, aren't even really that integral. When I do get my hands on an Eldritch Orb, I can't find too many uses for it. Anyways, currently we're just cooking up some bluefins. This is a few days after that Fasani's grind, and I'm just kind of recuperating supplies a little bit. Did a little bit of blood rune crafting today, did a whole bunch of fishing trawler. Not the minigame, but you know, out there in the ocean trawling for these bluefins, so now we're going to cook them up. As for the other account, the 50 defense, well, we've been parked out here at Zaya doing some soul rune crafting. Honestly, I've been slacking a little bit. We hit level 90 rune crafting a while ago and unlocked soul runes, but we're still level 90. We're about halfway to 91, and this was a while ago. Honestly, I probably should be 91 by now, but yeah, I've been slowing down a bit here. Unfortunately, not quite as motivated to multi-log. This is usually how it goes with the maxing grind though, you know, some days you're going to be very motivated, you're going to gain tons of EXP. Other days, it's definitely going to be a bit of a slog. So anyways, taking a step away from Fasani's for now, what is next on the agenda? Well, I had plans to do Tombs of Amascut because after snagging this twisted bow... Alright, can we end off with a purple today? I now have a set of mega rares for each account respectively, and Missouri would pair well with 416 Heroes T-Bow, being that it only requires 30 defense. That is actually the best range armor available over the Eclipse armor for 416 Hero. But I did a few TOAs and I just really wasn't feeling it. Looking back, I have no idea how I did hundreds upon hundreds of solos in TOA with less than ideal gear, mind you. Like these days I have max gear and you would think it would make it more enjoyable, but I don't know, I've just had a hard time getting back into TOA. So instead, I'm going to opt to do another grind, and that grind being, let's open up the collection log here, Kalphite Queen. Yes, very, very random, but once again, these days on a maxed account with the gear that I have, and being Grandmaster, I'm really out here just looking for random things to do. And here at the Kalphite Queen, we're looking for the pet and the jar. Now, I don't think I ever actually got the dragon pickaxe here. I ended up getting that in the wilderness. And same thing with dragon two-hand, that is a crossover of other wilderness drops, other bosses. Dragon chains though. Honestly, I don't quite believe I've gotten 7 from Kalphite Queen alone, but I think I definitely have got 1 or 2 from here. But yeah, we're going to be some KQ, probably going to be shadowing it. There are a few different methods. Maybe we'll try a couple of different methods. Alright, I wanted to wait for a brand new day to get started on the Kalphite Queen boss, but you know, every time we log in, we gotta do some typical Ironman stuff. To be honest, I've been procrastinating some of these things like an herb run, birdhouse run, things of that nature. I've been procrastinating just a little bit, so I'm trying to get back into the flow of things here and, you know, go ahead and do them. Not that I'm in desperate need of Renars or anything. I do have plenty of those. It's just a matter of processing. These days, everything just gets built up in the bank, sitting there, and I don't do anything with it. But yeah, we're going to get through this, and then we'll take a look at our Kalphite Queen setup and work out the strategy that we want to do. So I have very quickly done some very brief research to figure out my setup, and we're going to be using Max Mage here with the Tumucan Shadow. Not much to it. Ring included, Mage's Ring as well. I think another viable option is the Ring of Suffering if we need to be a little bit tankier. We'll just test it out. Maybe we'll change to that. I don't know. As far as spec weapons, since we're fully maging anyways, we're going to be using the Eye of Ayak. Got my Fortified Eladina Sword as well, just to improve accuracy a little bit. And obviously, being that we're maging, we have the Saturated Heart. Pretty much the rest of my inventory I've just packed with food. So, yeah, I've never actually used the halibuts before. I did fish a good bunch of those. But first time I'm using halibuts. For those unaware, These ones are essentially just better Karambons. They heal for 20 each. Now the Bluefins are 22 health restore and 5 prayer, but I've been using those more recently. Another thing I have to look up because it's been a long time since I've even gone here. What is the ferrying code to get there? It's BIQ. Big Insect Queen, I guess. Makes sense. Now if it's your first time going towards this cave, you're going to need 2 ropes. One for this initial one right here, but once you have all the desert diaries done, you don't have to worry about it whatsoever. You go in here, and then us having Desert Elite 4, we can just, or is it hard? I don't know, but we can go right through, but you do need desert requirements for that. And then the second rope goes here. Oh, I just realized what I forgot. An anti-poison. Alright, we are heading back right now. I got my extended anti-venom pluses. That's going to last a while. And our starting KC is 669. Only 2 things we're missing are the jar and the pet, in which the pet is a 1 in 3,000 and the jar is a 1 in 2,000. Alright, let's get started on the first KC here. I believe on the first phase we do want to pray range, as it's more likely to range. And then on the second phase, we'll be praying Mage, as that is more likely. Kalphite Queen is a very, very old boss, so it can be a little confusing. You can see that it actually has overheads, but those aren't true overheads. Okay, little mistake here, but in between phases, you actually want to stand under the boss to minimize the damage taken, but minor detail there. But yeah, Kalphite Queen's overheads aren't true overheads. They're merely a suggestion. Okay, so what we need to be doing, which I'm not doing right now, is actually stepping under, especially when I'm eating. And first KC, we got some gold ore and some dark crabs. Now there is about a 30-second respawn time, and considering how poorly this first one actually went, I'm going to go ahead and TP out, but I might consider doing 2 KC trips or something. Although being that we have the shortcut and an easy access to a fairy ring, it doesn't take too long to get back to the boss. So here's the better showcase. I just finished P1, absolutely deleted it actually, and we step under until we can attack it, because there is a pretty significant phase where it's invulnerable, and if you're stepping outside, it's going to hit you once or twice before you can even hit it. So minor little optimization here, not quite as important for us, but if you're a mid-game Ironman specifically, you're going to be taking heavy damage here. Now, why would people do Kalphite Queen, other than, you know, the sole fact of collection logging? Well, this is a safer option, a non-wilderness option, I should say, of getting a dragon pickaxe, and the general loot here is pretty decent. These grapes are great cooking EXP, and I think probably the most notable regular loot is going to be the Wines of Zamrock, which is going to be good herblore EXP. And speaking of herblore EXP, it does drop a whole ton of herbs. Also drops gold ore, good for smithing, buckets of sand for crafting. Lots of seeds actually, so yeah, very good all around, but it is a pretty tough boss to fight. Despite the fact that this, correct me if I'm wrong, this could be the oldest boss in the game, but that's also what makes it so scuffed, because it still has those old principles of just hitting super hard for no real reason. It doesn't matter what gear you wear. So let's talk about herbs earlier right away. 25 grimy toad flax, good for some brews, and it even drops up some sharks. I guess we'll just stick around for the respawn. I'm pretty sure it does take me longer than 30 seconds to teleport out and back, so it's probably worth it to stay here. Although I just realized I didn't bring any prayer potions, so maybe not. Oh, I was not ready. Oh, and we're not using a light bear or anything like that, so we don't have spec. Yeah, this is flawed. We're just going to TP up between KCs. I think that is more of the meta and more cost effective anyways. We're only a few KCs in, working on KC number 5 right now to be exact, and I can already tell I'm gonna appreciate this grind. This is chill enough to do, but also engaging enough to do, to where I think we can be able to do this for a pretty long while. I don't know what kind of KC we're going to get up to. In fact, right now I'm not even sure what KC an hour is. I've been trying to do some research and I've been hearing varying rates. Of course, another factor that's going to greatly affect that is whether you're on task or not. I think anyways, but I mean, even without being on task right now, seems like we're hitting like a truck. Could only imagine the type of damage we'd be doing if we were on task. But then again, it does take up a good bit of time to find a task instead of actively doing the boss. So here we are without the task. So it appears sometimes if I'm lucky enough, now I don't know how consistent this is going to be, so we'll have to check back in on this at a later date, but right now I'm on my 3rd KC without banking. It certainly helps that it drops some food sometimes, like we got 3 extra monkfish to work with here, but I can simply TP out to my POH, restore my stats, and quickly run back. Now the banking, whenever I do have to go bank, that probably adds a couple of seconds between each KC. Very minor, but also over the course of a run where we're potentially doing thousands of KCs, that could add up. So the less banking we have to do, the better. Another KC, and we just picked up the Zami wine drop. 60 of them. Now for me personally, these days it's not that important because I run a ton of Theater of Blood, and also obviously I did a ton of Calvarion, which are places that also drop Zami wine, so I actually have a ton of those. But Kalphite Queen could be a relatively easy, low entry cost boss to farm for mid-game irons. I mean, Calvarion more so, but that's also in the wilderness, which is always a factor for some people. I mean, for some people it might not be, but it is a factor, something to note. So far, I've been questioning if summoning thralls are even worth it since the shadow does so much damage and the fight is quickly over anyways before I TP out to reset for the next KC. Well, I have a thrall chilling all the way in the background over there. I guess I summoned it way too early. It doesn't even track over here. Yeah, I might just save my runes and prayer. I don't think the thrall is going to make too much difference in a fight as short as this. And speaking about the thralls, I made the immediate realization afterwards that I should be on the lunar spellbook. Very obvious thing that I overlooked. I swear when it comes to any grind at the start, you always forget something. There's just so many factors to each grind. Different setups, different spellbooks, and different inventories. But yeah, very obvious we should have Vengeance. Now I'm going to wait to cast it until I'm actually at the boss because I don't want to proc it on any random thing in here. So we're going to run past this guy, and then we'll summon the Vengeance. So right away we rebound a 30. Beautiful to see, so already very effective. Now I do believe the max hit is a 31. Well, Exhibit A right there we go. I think earlier I discussed that, we could potentially swap out the Mage's Ring for the Ring of Suffering, but I think that's only if I plan on actually utilizing the Ring of Recoil mechanic to the Suffering. If not, it's probably not worth it because, well, the reason why we're in a squishy max mage setup, but it's working, is that honestly your defense levels do not matter quite that much here. Kalphite Queen is going to hit you really hard regardless. So instead, you want to optimize your DPS just to get rid of the boss quicker. KC 694, we got a Kalphite Queen head. Oh, let's not forget about those 100 blood runes, very precious. But that is our 5th one. And of course, at 256, we got the tattered version, which is effectively a dry protection thing for the Elite Diary, so we have that too. So, but 5 heads. Now the drop rate for this is a 1 in 128, so I guess maybe we're slightly lucky on that right now. Not that it really matters. I think at the most you need 2. One for the diary task, which will also go into your POH, and then another one if you want to use the Slayer helmet, right? There's a Kalphite Queen Slayer helmet, if I'm not mistaken. Also, I just realized I ran back without restoring any of my stats. That's not ideal. I think we're about an hour in now, and we're definitely in the swing of things. I think we're definitely hovering around the 30-something KC an hour, as we're getting clobbered right here. Earlier, I did have a couple of KCs where I used absolutely no food, and then here we're getting clobbered, so yeah, never know what to expect. But we're working on KC number 700 right now. And let's just go ahead and safe up. The max hit is a 31. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, so if we're ever around that number, we gotta be real careful and probably just safe up. For our 700 KC, we get an Insult Kalphite Head, a Ranging Potion, and 100 Potato Cacti. Which, again, going back to what I said earlier, good Herblore EXP. Although magic potions are kinda useless. Oh, KC 731. Aside from the Kalphite Head, this is our first unique item. Very iconic dragon chain body. Let's teleport back to the POH so we stop getting ragged. But I do believe that is our 8th dragon chain body. Not all of it is from Kalphite Queen. I do believe I've gotten one from Dust Elves before, but pretty cool, pretty cool. Okay, I think just some weird thing happened with Any Hider because I do have it to hide dead NPCs. And the game thinks, or Runelight thinks it's dead, but it's probably like 1 health. Yeah, there you go. That was weird. A Rune Chain Body to follow up after the Dragon Chain. Well, that was like 2 KC ago, actually. KQ down, that marks 100 KC in the session. Good couple hours, about 3 hours or so, actually. 769 KC. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break for now, though. But yeah, no new things on the collection log except +1 Dragon Chain Body and +1 KQ head, I suppose. Alright, found myself with an opportunity to do some TOA. I know I said I was having a hard time with it earlier, but doing it in a team is much better than solos. Hey, yo? Yo? Wait, is mine? It's mine. It's too easy. Alright, let's see what it is. Let's see what it is. Missouri, please, please. Missouri, please. Missouri, please. Bruh. That was Light Bear number 16, and who knows how many purples in. 6, 7, 9, 12, 28, 44. 44th purple. Another day, and it's back to Kalphite Queen. Let's get started on the first KC of the day and see if we can get anything interesting. All things considered, a pretty humble first KC, only used 2 pieces of food. And we'll get ourselves some magic logs and a super restore. A free potion. So when we first started KQ, I asked the question, or rather I stated that Kalphite Queen was one of the oldest bosses in the game. Turns out, more precisely, it is the 2nd oldest boss. I did my research. And when I say I did my research, I mean, I asked some clanmates and they told me King Black Dragon is actually the oldest and Kalphite Queen is actually the 2nd oldest. Now, if that's incorrect information as well, I blame my clanmates and not me not doing proper research. Either way, it makes perfect sense that these 2 are the oldest bosses in the game. I don't know if I plan on doing King Black Dragon anytime soon, although, once again, that is another boss where I could go pet hunt, and I think that might be the only thing, actually. KBD, in terms of its uniques on the collection log, have a pretty big crossover with Kalphite Queen. It might exactly be the same, actually, apart from the pet, of course. There's also the KBD heads, which... You know what? I'm not entirely sure if I have on here or not. But either way, it's not a grind I'm looking to do anytime soon, I don't think. KBD, much like Kalphite Queen, just hits for a ton of damage for seemingly no reason. A couple other factors like the stat drains and things of that nature. Also, it's technically in the wilderness, although once you get into the boss place, that's a safe location. But you do have to be very briefly in the wilderness for a little bit. But hey, we have plenty of time to think of our next grind as we're still very early on into this KQ grind. As always, I don't really know how long I'm going to be here for, but we did rack up 100 KC in just one singular day. I don't know how repeatable that is, but we can safely rack up a few more 100 KCs over the course of the next week or so. I briefly mentioned seed drops earlier, and magic seeds, 2 of them in fact. That is actually a pretty juicy drop. And I believe that is another KQ head, KC 787. TP out real quick and let's pull up the collection log. to the Kalphite Queen. That is number 6. Second one on this recent stint already. And can we chain a back-to-back of drops? Unfortunately not. Runite bars. Maybe today is the day of drops. Unfortunately, it's still not a dragon pickaxe, not that we need one. Instead, it's a dragon two-hand at KC 798. Again, I say unfortunately not a dragon pickaxe because I'm just thinking of the theoretical here. Initially, my intentions were to get a dragon pickaxe here at Kalphite Queen rather than in the wilderness. And if I never went into the wilderness, well, I'm approaching 2 times the rate for the pickaxe at Kalphite Queen. And 2 KC later, here we are at a nice even number of 800 KC. A little while later, another drop, another dragon chain body. I believe that is the second one of this stint. First one today. We're up to 9 dragon chains and 20 dragon two hands now. Still no jar or the pet, but as we know, those things are much more rare. Oh, that is so tragic. I misclicked on my Runescape somehow. I'm not even sure how I managed to do that, but I was literally... I think I pretty much finished that Kalphite Queen. It was in the middle of its death animation, but the loot didn't load yet, and I don't believe it even counted as a KC, I don't think. Yeah, it didn't, so... Well, that was a total waste of time. And supplies, the shadow charges. No TP out this time. We see our loot. Some dark crabs. Alright, what is going on? Another KQ head. Along with 250 gold ore at KC 820. That is our 7th one and second one today. You know, this is just how the game trolls you, right? I'm sure when you lack the diary and you have to painstakingly walk all the way around, you're not going to get spooned on the KQ heads. Of course, there is the pity rate. You know, one of the few places in the game that has the pity rate to where you get it at twice the rate, 1 in 256, I believe, and you're guaranteed a KQ head. It's a different version, but it works for the diary. But now that we don't need that anymore and we have it done, we're absolutely spooned on these KQ heads. No back-to-back, but 25 Renara weeds is good to see. And we now have less than 4,000 charges in our Timken Shadow. Earlier I did say that I'd be trying out other methods, although the more I think about it, I haven't ran the numbers, but I'm pretty sure this max page setup is the best in slot. But for the purposes of, you know, just showcasing other methods, I'm going to swap into some other gear for at least a couple of KCs here. And so we're swapping out the max mage setup, and we're going to be bringing a melee and a range setup here. For our melee, we have full Inquisitors, which we relatively recently acquired actually, paired with the Karis Partisan of Breaching. This is the blue gem from the Tombs of Amascut. And then everything else is just max melee that you have available. For range, I actually have no clue whether the blowpipe or the twisted bow is better, but we're going to be rocking the twisted bow with the max range setup there. And an Elder Maw for spec. So obviously the trade-off here is that with the max mage setup, we burn shadow charges, but on the range and melee setup, arrows are pretty, you know, they're cheap, so not too big of a deal, but we do use divine super combats and ranging potions. Alright, so we're still going to be avenging, and instead of the IX spec, we're now going to use the Elder Maw. We're just going to go ahead and dump both. I think I'm still going to utilize TPing out here. Ray range on the first phase. We're going to be meleeing with the Karis on Crush. That's why we have Inquisitors. Kalphite Queen is weak to Crush. Same strategy here, stepping under, and we seem to be absolutely smacking. I think the 2 hammers help. Landing definitely does help. And then for P2, we're going to be using the T-bow. Although I do believe it is viable to just Karis all the way through, but this might be a little bit better if I'm not mistaken. Now, we also could have brought even more range switches. We didn't bring the Missouri Mask, and we didn't bring the Venator Ring. Those aren't too big of changes, but it's not like we're lacking the inventory space, but a little 6-way switch rather than 8 makes it a little bit more cozy. As cozy as Kalphite Queen can be when you're getting absolutely clobbered. But yeah, that felt like a pretty good KC. Obviously just a 1 KC sample size right now, so hard to really say. We'll do a couple more KCs, but I would rather cast Shadow Charges rather than burn up my Divine Potions, especially the Super Combats. It's not like I lack the resources, but they are just tedious to make, so I would rather make GP to buy more Chaos Runes than to burn through Divine Super Combats doing something like Kalphite Queen. Another pain point is that you can see right now my 2 Divine Potions are ticking away with 30 seconds left to go. So yeah, this is a lot of downtime where I'm not actively making use of being potted up. Whereas with the Saturated Heart, it's essentially infinite, right? I just have to click every, 6 minutes, 5 minutes? I don't quite remember. So yeah, that is another pain point to it. And for what it's worth, our first trip just now was a 2KC trip, which is pretty standard, I would say. We'll see if we get any better luck and can snag out like maybe like a 3 or 4 KC trip, which does happen on occasion in the Max Mage setup. So another trade-off is that now that we're bringing switches, obviously we have less food in our inventory. Something else to consider is maybe this method, this inventory setup, is best suited for actually staying for 2 KCs so that you don't teleport out and come back in. So maybe 1 hammer per KC, and then bring a prayer potion or 2 to make sure you can survive the trip. But once again, that just feels like it's more costly to me. I don't know. I guess it comes down to personal preference. Do you mind the shadow charges, or do you mind the potions and a little bit extra food and the arrows for your T-bow? Or if you have a blowpipe, you know, the blowpipe upkeep costs. I feel like in any case, once you have the diary, it's always best suited to TP out in between KCs, unless you're at the point where you're just trying to get maximum KC an hour, and that might differ. I don't know. Someone smarter than me, someone bothering to run the numbers would know better, but it just feels more cost effective to TP out between each KC, that's for sure. While I'm continuing to test out the melee and range method, another downside for me personally is that in putting the Karis on Crush, it exclusively trains strength EXP, and well, I'm 200 mil strength by the way, so I don't get to train my attack. Obviously I lose out on max hits, but if I want to be training attack EXP for the foreseeable future, that's just something I have to consider each and every time. Putting my melee weapons on the attack training style rather than strength, and as a result losing out on a couple of max hits. But yeah, no attack EXP for me here at Kalphite Queen. After about 30 minutes worth of using the melee and range setup, I'm just going to be switching back to the max mage setup. Definitely feel like this is better, and again, don't want to burn the potions. Honestly, with that max melee and range setup, there were a few trips where that second KC was actually very, very rough. Just a complete lack of food. You know, like 6 to 7 less pieces of food, I think, at the very least, and bringing in the switches does kind of have an effect. And also, specifically, I noticed the T-bow, I don't know, the accuracy wasn't as good as I thought it would be. So yeah, back to the mage setup for me personally. I know I'm going to lose out on a bunch of shadow charges, but it is what it is. Still chipping away at the Kalphite Queen KC, but let's check in with 416 Hero. We're still soul rune crafting as per usual, and about 157k EXP away from level 91. More closely though, if we take a look at our crafting, we're just 45,000 EXP away from 92. The bulk of 91 to 92 is definitely just going to be from all this rune crafting at Guardians of the Rift and at Zaya respectively, so it's really nice. And I think we're going to be picking up another mining level soon afterwards too, so not only are we getting rune crafting EXP, but we're also getting mining and crafting. Feels good, man. I just did the world's fastest beekeeper event. I'm sure someone's done it quicker than me, but that was pretty quick. To top it off, we got a collection log, the beekeeper's boots. Honestly, between all the accounts that I play, it's hard to keep up with which accounts have done which random events. So it looks like on this account, we still have to do a little bit of everything, actually. The only set we have completed is the Lederhosens. Now, random events are good to do these days. I say these days, but it's been an update for quite some time now, probably over a year, if not more. But you do get EXP lamps whenever you do complete them too. It's a little bit weird, I think, for the Beekeeper random there, even though I didn't finish the outfit set yet, I still got an EXP lamp. But for the other outfits, like the camo one or the Gravedigger zombie outfit, you need to complete the set first, and then you start getting EXP lamps. But yeah, for new accounts or progressing accounts, non-maxed accounts, honestly, might be worthwhile to do the random events. Depending on what you're doing though, you know, sometimes you're actively training, actively PVMing and things of that nature, might not be worth it then. Well, I'm going to continue chipping away at Kalphite Queen, and I'm going to continue mining and doing the occasional birdhouse run here, which I've been severely slacking on. But progress is still being made, and I will catch you guys on the next one.